Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar. I'm Hannah Jennings, a community organizer at Tech in Motion, and I'm really excited to be the one to welcome you all to today's event. As everyone continues to join, feel free to say hello in the chat, introduce yourself, maybe let us know where you're tuning in from. If you have any questions for the panel, you can also submit those in the Q&A section at any time, and we'll do our best to answer as many as possible during the later portion of the event where we do live audience Q&A. For those of you who have joined a Tech in Motion event before, you know we've been bringing together the tech community since 2011 when Motion Recruitment launched this event series. It's really always been about learning from industry leaders, building meaningful connections, and exploring what's next in technology. Today's event is especially exciting because it brings together two parts of the Kelly family of brands. Motion helps organizations solve complex technology challenges through talent and consulting solutions, while Kelly Education supports more than 10,000 schools and educational institutions nationwide. Together, we're uniquely positioned at the intersection of technology, talent, and education, helping leaders navigate everything from cybersecurity and AI adoption to workforce challenges and digital transformation. Today's conversation is a great example of how those worlds are increasingly converging, and we're thrilled to bring together this community to learn from one another. Our focus on cyber risk and resilience in education in the age of AI comes at the perfect time as school districts close out another academic year and begin planning for what's ahead. Our esteemed panel is going to unpack how education leaders are navigating a rapidly evolving landscape where cybersecurity, AI governance, and operational resilience have become mission-critical priorities. A quick reminder before we kick off, the session will be recorded, so if you have to step away, we'll make sure you receive the recording following today's event. Now, I am pleased to welcome onto the stage our moderator for today's conversation, Micah Linehan, Strategic Technical Security Lead at Microsoft. Micah brings more than 20 years of experience in security, cloud architecture, and modern workplace transformation. He has led large-scale security and compliance initiatives at Microsoft, built SOAR-based phishing defense capabilities, and helped education organizations modernize identity, threat protection, and SecOps. So Micah, we're excited to have you hosting today's conversation. I will let you take it away from here.
Well, thank you so much, Hannah. And it's an absolute blast to be able to present this content and, more importantly, present the speakers here. And I think that the more we learn from the education industry and the threats that evolve from that, the more we can truly learn from the societal impact and impetus that we are currently enduring. So with that, I will welcome Calvin, Emily, Joe, and and Sean as well. So I'm so excited to query you all and get the true speak, and you all, I think, have gotten a decent notion of myself and the fact of, if you want to make fun of Microsoft, you can make fun of Microsoft, but it won't hurt my feelings. I make fun of them as much as I do, but I feel like we are definitely leading the pack in trying to help organizations, especially education institutions, improve their security posture and everything else. So feel free to introduce yourselves in order. And Calvin, I'll let you introduce yourself, and then Emily and Joe.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Calvin Nobles, and I'm the Portfolio Vice President and Dean at the School of Cybersecurity and Information Technology at University of Maryland Global Campus.
Good afternoon. I'm Emily Elam. I'm the Chief Information Officer for Huntsville City Schools in Alabama.
Hello, everybody. Dr. Joe Phillips. I'm the Chief of Strategy and Technology for Fulton County Schools in the Atlanta, Georgia area.
And I'm Sean Doherty, Director of IT Consulting Services for Motion Consulting Group.
Oh, absolutely fantastic. So when we dig in here and we start talking about what we really care about, what we should really truly be investigating, I'm going to turn first to Emily, put you right on the hot spot,
Oh boy.
and say, how is AI changing the threat landscape? What AI developed and development strategies have you seen most in the past 12 months?
I think we're all worried about security vulnerabilities being exposed as AI gets better and better. And what we're doing a lot of is talking to our partners. We are mostly cloud hosted, where we rely on our partners so heavily, and so we're spending a lot of time talking to them about how they're using AI in their development. We are hoping that they document that well and that they are conservative and cautious as they switch from people to AI, which I think everyone is starting to do, that they do it very intentionally and with our students' data at the forefront of every decision that they make. And also just, reliability of the service. We had one of our major partners, a learning management system, which I think a lot of people use, that had a breach at the end of the school year last year. And it had a huge impact on us, just as teachers were starting to put in grades. That's a real wake-up call, I think, for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Joe, what do you think about that too as well? I mean, your approach on governance and how do you provide like responsible adoption within that framework?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Micah. I think for us, governance has to come first, and it's getting more challenging as AI is getting faster and faster iterations happening. And to Emily's point, a lot of our providers are cloud-based, and a lot of them are trying to bake in AI capabilities either on the front end or the back end without talking to us about it. And so we spent the last year really tightening up our software and data sharing agreements to make sure that you can't just add a new AI feature into the product without violating our terms of agreement with the contract. So we've had a lot going on there. We're very, very big on making sure we control when AI comes into our landscape and making sure that we are setting up a walled garden around AI, whether it's on the front end with the tools that the users are using, or our back end with things like Microsoft XDR and DAX that we have, because we need AI to fight the AI that's trying to get in and get our stuff. So on our firewall alone, we have over 5 million hits a day of folks trying to get into our environment, and that's just the firewall. And there's no way our humans could keep up with that. Matter of fact, they weren't keeping up, which is why we went to XDR, which has been a huge platform and boon for us. And when it comes to governance, that's really what it's about, was setting up that walled garden. So we don't want to say no to AI for our users internally, but we are blocking over 40,000 AI apps and websites that are out there, and more are popping up every night. We allow 3 inside of Fulton County Schools right now. So we allow Microsoft Copilot chat for our high school students and staff. We have something called School AI. And then the third one I won't talk about yet because it's not quite live, but we will be allowing that before the start of the next school year. But we went slow. We went deliberately slow, and we ended up kind of picking out a lot of vendors who are doing kind of the last part of AI that we're combating right now, which is the explosion of free teacher accounts and free user accounts, and then using that to send what I call the EdTech ransom email. And so with that, what vendors will do is say, hey, we have 40% or 900 people using our product and putting student and staff data in our product. If you want to secure the data, you need to buy the district level license in order to do that. So we have very strong response and cease and desist and steps that we go through when we receive those emails and all of that. But and we kind of had that before AI, but AI has made it much faster and harder to keep up with. Is what I would say from our perspective.
Yeah, the joke I always say is that we had Delve when we've had Delve for the past 5-6 years. Now with AI, Delve understands what's not only the files that are there, but what's in the files. And so with that, I would actually turn it over to Calvin to say, hey, Calvin, what are your thoughts?
You know, first I must say I love being on shows like this because I get to learn from Joe, Sean, and Emily and what are they dealing with on a daily basis. As someone that works in higher education, it's very important for us to have an ear for industry because we're now teaching the next wave of technology and security professionals coming behind them. And so when Joe mentioned, you know, AI governance, I was so glad when I heard our business school dean talking about they're going to be teaching a course in AI governance, right? And so then I'm always delighted when I hear my faculty member talk about working with vendors and working with different people about AI security because this is important. But and overall in higher education, the biggest thing we have about artificial intelligence is faculty members are trying to find out what's the right balance between too much AI and not enough AI, helping the students to continue to develop their critical analysis and critical thinking. And then from a business operation side in higher education, what can we use AI to help automate? What can we use to increase business proficiency and productivity? So it's a constant churn. And I can't, just like all the other industries, we've been shaking to our core about what AI is doing. And so we're having to adapt. And so our biggest thing now is really just trying to help students learn that there is an ethical and responsible way to use artificial intelligence. And there's a way to where you need to make a decision what's not the right way to use artificial intelligence so you can continue to develop as a young professional and develop the critical thinking and analysis you need because it's not always going to be there. Most of us who've been out in the industry know at some point, at some time, something will fail. And when it's not there, you still need to perform. So this is why, you know, this discussion is so important. And I'm loving listening to what Joe and Emily had to say so far.
I want to circle back to something that Joe did mention. The amount of attacks, something that we're seeing across every district is in recent years seeing more and more attacks on their systems. Why do you feel that education is one of the biggest targets right now?
I'll go. So I think for me, it's a couple things. One, education's pretty much since we started collecting student data and making it available via the internet, we've been a huge target in education. Primary driver there is the value of that data compared to adult data. It's much more valuable on the dark web or black market for that student data. You can build huge credit profiles for many years with the data that we have availability to. But we also, on top of the student data, we have all the financial data, banking data of all of our employees. We have so Fulton County Schools, we have about a $2 billion annual revenue that goes through our ERP system that, you know, you can get in and do the man-in-the-middle vendor attacks and things like that as well. So we have a lot of different vectors that make us a very juicy target. And on the flip side of that, a lot of districts don't have the budget or staffing to put the defenses in place. And so we're a very soft target a lot of the time in education. But I'll stop so my colleagues can also kind of chime in with their thoughts.
Absolutely.
I would add in that, you know, from a Microsoft telemetry standpoint and what we've seen time and time again is they're the second largest targeted entity on the planet. And you have I jokingly say this, but the reality is you have a Fortune 100 size user base and you have the budget of a startup. And Emily.
That's exactly right. I mean, I think that in a lot of our communities, we're either the largest or the second largest employer. And not only are we having to make space for those employees on our network, we also are, so I've got 30,000 daily users, on a network across 44 campuses in a pretty large geographical area. And so I don't have the team that's the same size as a private industry that had that kind of, footprint. So I think that it certainly makes us an attractive target. And it makes it really difficult to protect because we are, like Calvin said, we do have to educate our kids. We have to expose them to these tools. We have to teach them cybersecurity. And it requires that we make special allowances in our own security posture to give them access to learn those things. And that is slightly terrifying and a constant, balance. But it's important. So we keep trying to make sure they have what they need.
And I would like to continue that. Amy, I'm going to pull on that string there when you say terrifying, because one of the things we never really talk about this from a national security perspective, because we do have adversarial nations out there that do collect our data, right? And so the earlier they can start collecting data and building profiles, the longer they will have and the more valuable it comes. To get back to the point that Joe said, you start a profile earlier and you build that profile over 10 years and you just continue to stack data and develop and mature that profile, the more invaluable that profile comes to an adversarial nation.
Yeah, I've even seen within certain environments that organizations themselves have become subject to, compromise, and the user identities themselves have been, ransomed and obfuscated and taken advantage of, to the point where, I had a colleague that actually had their daughter literally just like lose their whole mortgage and their whole environment because of the fact that their account was compromised. And those virgin accounts, and that's really what they are, is those are virgin identities, can be manipulated and obfuscated and taken advantage of at such an early age that if those social security numbers, those identities, who they are taken advantage of, they lose that ability and that anonymity.
These security concerns are the frontline defense for students in the near term, but also their future. And even considering the students' impact, the teachers and the faculty are impacted as well. I'd like to pose a question to the group. What does effective cybersecurity awareness training look like to teachers, staff, and faculty who already feel overloaded?
So we actually did something fun. And I know cybersecurity training doesn't often seem fun, but I think most of the people who participated would agree. But we brought together our finance team and we made them the white hat. We said, okay, you tell us where the vulnerabilities are. It was structured activity, and we gave them some, ideas and background, but ultimately they know the workflow better than anybody else. They understand where those risks are. And so then they had roundtable discussions about how to mitigate those risks just within their own department. And I know we're all doing phishing training, of course, and I think it's effective. I think it's important. But asking people to actually participate and be a part of the security team, I think has been pretty effective for us.
Yeah, I'll add it for us. The driving of the importance is very good. So it's one thing to tell folks about our student information that they're protecting and all of that, but we get a very different response when we let them know that all your banking and direct deposit information can be at risk. Now they're like, oh, hang on, tell me more. So that's good. We have some drip phishing campaigns that go out. We've learned that the bulk training that, the once a year or the bulk phishing simulations aren't very effective for us because everybody starts telling everybody the phishing simulations going on. So we have a product that does drip, and we'll kind of individualize it for folks. And we have a leaderboard and give out some stuff that way. And then we also have a really cool thing that's happening now where you click on a malicious link, it'll lock up your computer and a very loud alarm goes off. So and I probably will get in trouble for saying this, but my board and superintendent learned that when my superintendent clicked on a malicious Facebook link during a meeting one day.
Oh, I love that.
And so it went off his
I love that
computer.
as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so now nobody wants that to happen, right? So because they don't want that to happen, and it becomes more fun when it does happen to folks and everybody kind of knows what's going on. Because it's hard. They're getting better and better, especially using AI to build the phishing campaigns. It's getting better and better.
They can finally spell.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, they can. And I mean, it's just getting much more sophisticated. So that's why we have some of these automated tools in place. But, when you're in a staff meeting and your computer locks up and a siren goes off on it, it just goes, it has a different impact than just the typical trainings and things.
Yeah, I love hearing the stories because I love what you said, Joel, Emily. I like what you said by changing some of the scenarios and giving people an opportunity to look at security awareness differently. Because I have this saying, I get asked this question a lot as I travel around and speak, and that is, what do you think of security awareness training? And I always say, everybody don't eat mayonnaise on their sandwich, right? And the reason I say that is because security awareness, you can't teach everybody the same way because we learn differently. So you got to be very innovative in how you go about exposing and teaching people how to learn and practice cybersecurity so they can be more effective at it. Because some people you can give them a book, they'll read it and they'll be good to go. Some people like to be hands-on. Some people like to sit down in a room with others and discuss out loud. So we got to remember, everybody don't like mayonnaise.
Everybody does. Everybody doesn't like mayonnaise, especially when it's on their hands, right? Yeah, all of a sudden they're like, I just touched the bucket of mayonnaise on my hands.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry, I like mayonnaise, but not Miracle Whip. So
no, I would agree.
Yeah.
I'm a QP guy and a Dukes guy now. I've been converted.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
From that standpoint, when we look at prioritization, and I've lived and breathed this for the past 2 decades when working with institutions. You all live and breathe this every day. Like, how do you do prioritization in a security environment? Like in a resource constrained environment.
Yeah, that's a tough one. And it's tough in the educational field as well, because you can't just prioritize the security or the most secure environment that like you could, like when I was back in the military. It's easy. Like, no, you can't do it. It's not secure. It's very different when saying no, you can't do that is interfering with the instructional process or that teaching and learning process, and they need access to these different tools. And so for us, our biggest priority is how can we automate our defense layers as much as possible with some trusted tools and resources? How do we make sure that our folks understand the risk or risky behavior? And then how can we quickly vet and allow or disallow and find a replacement for some of these things for folks to do their jobs and for teaching and learning to happen? So those are kind of our top priorities. And then what we can't handle with tools or saying no, we try to make sure we have inside of our software agreements and our data sharing agreements and have our cyber insurance to kind of cover the mitigate those risks that we can't just completely shut down.
I think one of the added challenges in K-12 is student security. Beyond just cybersecurity, we do have tools in place that alert us to certain, student risks that may exist. And so, I'm when I think about how do I prioritize, I really do think about student safety first, and then data safety. And, so I think that's it's kind of an added challenge to our world.
Yeah, I think the physical safety in a lot of schools trumps the virtual safety, which I feel is equally as important. But we all know physical safety is just such a vital part of what we do within the U.S. and especially worldwide too.
Yeah, and I'll just add, there's less separation between the two than there was before. The lines blur, inside and outside school blurs, but digital threats can turn into physical threats faster than we can act if we didn't have some of our automated tools, and I'm sure Emily has as well, to make sure that we can detect those and act on them very quickly.
Joe, you bring up a really good point, because you think about, for me, when I go to work, I have a smartwatch on, I have a smartphone, I'm carrying a tablet, then I'm carrying a school issue iPad. I'm a walking security nightmare, right? And so the same thing is and these things are on me physically because I carry them with me. So it's very difficult to divide physical security from digital security.
Technology is evolving at a rapid pace, especially since the 2000s. Calvin, when you see these new devices coming into the buildings, or what red flags do you look for when you're evaluating whether or not something is a secure device or not?
The first thing I look for is when I turn on my tablet, it should automatically ask me to link to the network, right? I look for that, and I have to agree that I'm gonna follow the protocols and do the right things to be a part of the user agreement. I look for that, and I look for it to query me to actually log on. I will be concerned if it would just automatically log me on, right? And the other thing I would tell you is that every 30 days or so, I look for my iPad to hit me up for a new password, because that's what the university system requires, right? And so when I don't see those things, I go down and talk to the IT help desk and say, hey, I've been having this password for quite a while. I'm probably in violation somewhere. Can you help me figure this out? Because I don't want my name on the list somewhere. And so I look for things like that, but I also look for like anybody sending emails, or I look for messages coming across on Teams that should not be there, or different things. And all those things help me identify like red flags, and I can easily reach out to our IT team and our cybersecurity team, because even though I run the school, we have a close working relationship, because it's the right thing to do. We are the first advocates for our cybersecurity team and our IT team.
You're the frontline defense, right?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. If you see something, say something. It's not just a TSA.
Yes.
That device safety is a really good point too. And it's something that we really struggle with. I think every day there's like a new VR headset or, device, some kind of special ed, assistant that needs to go on the network. And, IoT is not just in our kitchens. It's in the schools too. And it's a huge challenge.
Yeah, microsegmentation of networks is continually that pillar that just continues to just stack on what we need to do within our own environments and how we need to handle it. And I would say, even to that point of Calvin just saying like, hey, I'm bringing a new device into the environment. Like, why are you bringing that new device in? And there's the attestation that needs to be there. Like, did you just get frustrated with your old device, or are you bringing in buying a new device, or is it a compromised user, like a compromised user account? Some of the most ambiguous alerts that I've ever seen within Microsoft are, hey, by the way, here's a bulk download of OneDrive data to a new device, but it's a new device, right? Like, it's a new device entering the organization, and so like, what do you do with that, and the public nature of and the open sourceness in education to have that anonymity to be able to say that. So yeah, I would say, Emily, like, what do you do when you have a new device enter your organization?
Well, in our world, there are a lot of guests. Toyota provides a teacher for our career tech school, that's not an employee of ours and does not have our device. I mean, it's just a constant stream of things like that. So, we really, segmentation and, a very separated guest network is kind of helps us out. But Again, when we're dealing with devices that students have in their hands, we are required by federal law, SIPA in particular, and state law now with the Focus Act in Alabama to protect what students see online. So it's not just a cybersecurity challenge; it's also a content challenge. So the devices that do belong to us, whether they pass muster for technology or not, if they are instructionally sound and important for learning, then we have to figure out how to make it work. That's the reality of it. That's the challenge. It'd be great if we could, the safest network is one with no people and no devices. Right?
The most secure environment on the planet is the one that just nobody can access the secure document, right?
Yeah.
CIA, like confidentiality, integrity, availability. No availability, let's just lock it down. So
yeah. Not an option.
Not an option. Joe, I can tell you're just aiming to speak.
Sure. So we have our device, our credentials framework or standpoint that we use. So you can't use our credentials on devices that aren't ours to get into our network, and you can't use not our credentials on our devices and that type of thing. We do have guests, but that's a very segmented internet only, can't get to any of our internal resources network. And then we have our IoT segmentation also for things like assistive technology, biomedical technologies, now food service technologies, and our fire alarms, and all of that is completely segmented from our user networks. And I think that's very important. And then even if you're off network, everybody has to VPN in order to get access to anything, right? So it's not foolproof, as I think everybody's learned, but I think having those good governance steps in place, which I will promise you are not easy to establish in the school district, because when I came in, to Fulton 2 years ago, we didn't really have a lot of this, and I looked like the guy that was taking away all the stuff people needed to do work, and took a lot of collaboration and maybe going slower to go faster on that type of thing. But people understanding the need, understanding we're really here to make sure they can do the teaching and learning and the work that needs to happen. We just need to do it in the secure way. Because I've been in a district that's had a cyber attack that took us completely down. We couldn't have school. We couldn't take attendance. We couldn't run our buses. We couldn't feed our kids. Our door access control couldn't work. Like the system was completely down. And so when you explain to folks that is what's on the other side of not having these security measures in place, the impact of that starts to resonate a little bit.
Oh yeah, the physical security mapping to digital security is one thing that I think that we need to convey better to our enterprise audience and to our users, and to, more importantly, our parents, who are like, hey, by the way, if we get compromised, the physical access also parallels the digital access. And so
I would say that's easy to do. It's easy to bring up the conversation when there's been a recent incident. What do you do in the event how do you keep cybersecurity visible to others when something like this hasn't happened in a little bit? It's not on the top of everybody's mind, but you want it to be.
I think regular tabletop exercises, the training, board presentations. I have a reserved spot in March of every year for a board presentation, and try to make sure that I'm talking about it a lot, even though there are a lot of other priorities in the district, and there are a lot of other things that we're working on a daily basis to just make sure I'm saying that out loud as much as I can. Don't click on links and emails, at the end as a closing statement at every meeting.
I have a little note thing right here that says no clicky link.
Yeah, exactly. I want to put that on every laptop in the district. That'd be great.
One of the things that I do, I always reference other attacks, because unfortunately in our business, there's always going to be an attack. It's just very prevalent now, right? And so you always reference other attacks with empathy and sympathy, because it could have been your organization, and you use that as an opportunity to train, discuss, and increase awareness.
Yeah, I would agree with everything that you both said. I'll say some of the things that we've added. The drip campaigns, keep it front of mind, because you're either passing and getting, we have these little acorns you can earn for that, or you didn't, and that could have been an attack that you just let through. And so people are getting, I don't want to say constantly, but it's at least every couple of weeks that they're getting this in their inbox. And then the thing with the alarm going off and the computer locking, that's a literal attack that just got stopped.
Mhm.
And so that is a really good reminder for folks. And I do the same thing Calvin does, where if there's another school district or educational organization that, had an attack, and then unfortunately, many of our vendors have been getting successfully attacked over the past 18 to 24 months as well. And so keeping it top of mind is pretty good. But I'll also just add one more thing, and that is frequent IT security audits, because that allows you to lean on those audit findings for the remediations that you have to put in place, as opposed to it just being me that wants to do it, or just my team, or just the superintendent, or someone that wants to put these protections in place.
Yeah, I would add in the importance of making sure that number one, your vendors have limited account access and you're auditing that access on a regular basis, right? Secondly, vendors are as prone to the attacks as much as the students and the environment. And so the more you can protect that, the more you can understand it, the more you can secure it, the better you're off. And I have organizations that are purchasing, identity governance specifically for vendor access and specifically for the reporting and the attestation of, the protections that we have and the default workflows that we have to protect those accounts that, they may be a sight unseen, but they're the biggest threat actors that we have and we know, right? Like you look at the Targets, you look at Home Depot, you look at you just pick a major corporation and all of a sudden it's a vendor compromise scenario, and it's an expression of risk. And so I think whether we're looking at it externally as much as we're looking at it internally, like privileged identity management, protection of identities, and protection of the sources that we have are so vitally important to what we do on a day in and day out basis. Hackers don't break in as much as they log in today's day and age. That's the reality. So
Your relationships are your biggest attack vector right there. And it's not just education, corporate world as well. There was a recent attack with Target lost their credit card system because an HVAC vendor had API access to it. So they're bigger fish with a smaller fish.
On a crazy non-segmented network.
Mm-hmm.
I was just about to say, I think those APIs, that's one of the things that I've been auditing lately, is, we do have to automate a lot of our, and we're a large district, small team, so we automate as much as we can, especially identity creation and management. And so making sure that the APIs that are moving data around between databases are secure and considered regularly. It takes time and attention to do it. It's important.
Right. And then there's also a mandate to be like, hey, I need to provide access to this database to this sovereign entity. And they need to be able to audit it. But do we truly trust who we're inviting into our environment? And that falls on the framework of zero trust, never trust, always validate. And with that highly integral components, like how are we protecting that environment when we're told and mandated in some situations, like you just said, Emily, to provide that level of access? Are we able to see exactly what they clicked on, what they did, what what was going on.
It does bring up another question. What level of due diligence do you do for all of these vendors? You have your budget constraints, your time constraints. There's a lot of things that are pulling you in different directions, and you have to focus on making sure that your environment is secure from that standpoint. Let's say, Emily, do you have any examples of things that you've done or that you've had to evaluate in order to approve a vendor into your environment?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we look for SOC 2 compliance, obviously, but beyond that, years ago, I remember reading every privacy policy myself, especially in a smaller district. Now we're lucky enough that school districts have gotten smart and banded together, and there are a couple of organizations that help with that due diligence and keep track of companies' audits and privacy policy changes, and give them rankings and ratings and provide us details. So if there's like a new software that we're interested in, that's our first stop, is to go, see what they have to say and how they're treating other districts as well. And it is a subscription, but it is an affordable one, and certainly worth it, because it's something that we struggle to find time to do, especially once we've signed on and the contract is in place and the MOU's been signed, to make sure that they're following through with everything they agreed to do. That is I barely follow through with everything I'm supposed to do every day, so hard to do.
Yeah, I'll add. So we're a big district as well. I think we got about 86,000 students and a little over 100 schools. Fortunately, I'm very fortunate. We got a good IT security team here, and our head of it he's a CSIP guy, retired Air Force officer. So he does a very good job. He and I work very, very closely, and so we do all things Emily just said, especially about the vetting. But we also vet those organizations that do the vetting, and so we have found that they're not always trustworthy. On a couple of things, we have called them on it and said, how did you possibly allow this organization to get this seal or certificate, and then found out that they did it because this other organization approved them. And so we contacted that organization. How did you do it? Oh, because this organization approved. So sometimes the vetting's not actually there with those organizations.
We're gonna start the Dr. Joe list, and I'd like to be on it. You let me know.
Absolutely.
So I would like to also be on that. So
yeah, absolutely. But yeah, we do a lot of careful vetting, and we will take our time to vet. So what I like to tell the team is it's very rare to have an ed tech emergency. And so if somebody's wanting to bring something new, there's usually time to vet it properly. We also re-vet all of our current stack of applications annually to make sure that nothing changed as well. Now, to the point, smaller districts have a much harder time doing that. They don't have a dedicated team that can do that, and they have to rely on those organizations, which I did. My first district had 14,000 students. I had to rely on these organizations, but I'm also going to start calling these organizations out, because so many of these smaller districts and universities have to rely on them, and they need to actually do the due diligence and vetting that's required.
Calvin, your thoughts?
For me, the biggest thing is, I get called by ed tech, my vendors every day, and I have to explain to them I'm on the academic side, but I appreciate them reaching out. But seriously though, we spend a lot of time working with our IT and our cyber teams, because inside of our ed tech programs, we have hundreds. In our cyber program, we have hundreds of pieces of ed technologies in there. So I have some vendors on speed dial myself, because I need to know that things are up and up. And when I got an issue, I need it resolved right away, because if a student can't access something, or there's a security block or something's not working, I need it fixed right away, because anything that's not operational, predominantly for most of our students that's online, that's a major issue for us. And so I work with our IT team. I got our CIO. I got him on speed dial too. I can reach out to him right now, and he and I talk the rest of the day, because we're in this together.
Yep, you're in the pit, man. You're in the pit. You're working through it, and just constant evolution and change and everything else. So, Sean, one directed at you.
Oh boy.
When adoption outpaces governance, how can we best remedy the situation?
I like to use an analogy, and that is you're upgrading to a faster car, but forgetting to install the seatbelts.
That's a good one.
You always want to make sure that integrity are always key factors when you're determining what you're adopting and bringing into your network. You don't just want to bring something in and hope for the best, because just like a zero trust policy, new technologies, new softwares, they all are potentially come with issues, and you're potentially introducing those issues into your environment, which are going to lead to bigger issues. They're going to open holes, and things are going to come out of that hole.
Yeah. Joe.
Yeah.
Right. Give you the moniker of like partner acquisition, understanding the value of what you have within the environments that you have to deal with, and how do you navigate that complexity?
Yeah, I think first and foremost is I'll go back to kind of what Sean said. Don't let adoption outpace governance. Just because it exists doesn't mean you need to bring it into your environment. You don't need to bring it in with the sense of urgency that people who want to use it need to bring it, want you to. I'll go back to there's very rare that there's a tech emergency. And so,
it's perfectly fine to say this is not worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. So that, and when it comes to our partners and our vendors, when it sounds cheesy because they always want to say they want the partnership and not just be a vendor. They want the relationship. But one thing that we make sure that means is that's after the sale. There's no relationship before the sale. After the sale is when we can find out if you're a true partner or if it's a true relationship. And are you going to answer the phone at 2 a.m. when we're dealing with an outage or an issue or some sort of cyber incident? Or are you going to put out a bunch of press releases and not let us know what's going on as we're trying to finish out the school year? So, that kind of stuff matters quite a bit. For anyone that is connected with me on LinkedIn, you will see I will call these partners out on my LinkedIn. I will blast them. I will write articles. I will get an EdTech magazine to call them out and all types of things. Not to be mean or anything, but that's how important these relationships are. And if you're violating that relationship with me, highly likely you're doing it with others. And I think that it needs to be known. One thing I love about the educational industry is we're not competitors, we're collaborators. And so if I can share with folks like Calvin and Emily what we're going through and challenges we're having or solutions we've come up with, then we get to all iterate together on that.
Yeah, I reiterate that we have a professional organization called ALET, Alabama Leaders in Educational Technology, and pretty much every CIO in the state, all 140 something districts participate. And we are a very tight knit group, and we have a private, email listserv where we can, because we're good Southerners, we don't always want to call them out on LinkedIn. We want to be polite, but behind the scenes, we are definitely telling each other which partners are taking care of us and which ones aren't. So. I think those relationships
as a LinkedIn follower and contributor, I post a bunch of stuff on there. If you have problems with the Microsoft stack and you have problems with the technology, this may be opening myself up to a lot of litany, but just let me know. Honestly, that's the whole way that we get better, right? Is as a community, as a core, and that honestly is the basis of the Elevate organization. I know we're starting a new org, but within Microsoft, we do care, and we do truly want to make the most secure environment that we can for not just the teachers and the educators, but for the students, and make it vitally important to protect them.
I don't think we picked on you enough. I don't think we got around to that. Hopefully, there's something in the questions about it.
Well, you could continue to bully me for the next 10 minutes and be on here. And, I would say, like, there's so many questions here on the prompt side of, like, just like governance and protection and availability of technologies and everything else. I would open it up to you all to kind of close it out. I'm not going to close it out as the moderator. I think it's on Calvin, Emily, and Joe, and you, Sean, too. So,
Well, let me pose a question. What should school boards, presidents, leadership be asking their IT or security team regularly, but often aren't?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because especially when it comes to board, who is really the governing body of the organization, it's not. I wouldn't recommend they really get down in the weeds and want to see every attack vector and protection that be placed. But in general, when it comes to cybersecurity and AI, they should understand how we bring things into the district, what our selection process is, what types of security tools and things that we do have in place, and what risks we're currently trying to work on overall. So I think here in Fulton, our board does a very, very good job of making sure that they have a good handle on that, especially so they can go and talk to the community and to our stakeholders about all of those different things. But they also do a very good job of not trying to get down into the weeds. They're not looking to see what our firewall configuration settings are or anything like that. It's just really, are we safe and how do you know is kind of the best way to ask those questions.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think as professionals, like my mind goes to like frameworks and, firewalls and specifics. But I think, from a board and governance standpoint, I agree with Joe. I think it's, and it's a casual conversation. We should be able to translate technical issues for less technical leaders and explain why we do what we do. And so I think the question they should ask is like, what are our biggest risks and how are you handling those? And just have an easy conversation about what might bring the district down for 2 weeks, and which we've seen, I think, and a lot of districts have. So, I agree. I think it's casual, and I think that's also not just with board, but with non-technical. All of our non-technical leaders are really try to make sure. It's funny. What strikes me as we've been talking today is that we have to say no a lot, and that's very difficult to do if you don't have a constructive, positive relationship with the people who are asking the question, and if they don't trust you to say yes when you can, or in the ways that you can, and if you can't translate why you're saying no. So I think that's an important part of the job.
That's really hard, right? To be the yes man or be the no man, or is it just I'm proposing it in monikers, but just be that person to say like, no, we can't do that, or yes, we can. And I think in education we always want to live in the world of yes, we can do that, but we need to do it responsibly.
I would agree. Sorry. I would agree. We have two things that we do with my team. One is we have a philosophy that start with yes, arrive at no. And so we arrive at no if it's a security issue or some other issue like that. But we also never say no to the problem that's trying to be solved. We might say no to the type of solution to the problem, but we don't say no and then walk away. We say, sorry, can't do it that way. And we're going to get in and dig into the problem with you and find a solution.
Yeah, I think it's so vitally important, is the understanding behind yes. So, Calvin, your thoughts?
I always get the question from our president, how are we doing? You know, I get that question a lot because I come from the cybersecurity industry, and he wants to know, how do I see things from my seat? And, you know, because I have the relationship I have with our CIO and the security team, you know, I'm like, we're doing great. You know, I spend time with the security team. I pull up a chair and we'll sit down at the table for an hour, and I spend some time talking with the security leaders, and I'll let them know what I'm hearing coming from the agency, because I spend a lot of time at the agency here in Maryland. So I give them insight on that, and we keep that information exchange going. If they come across a problem, they'll reach out to me. And for instance, I reached out to them yesterday because I need to get in contact with a major cloud provider, educational services. So I'm using my operational arm from the IT side of the house to get in contact with them. And so it's a partnership. And the longest we communicating, the better chance we stand at winning together. It's when that communication stops that I become a lot more concerned. But as long as we can communicate and as long as we share information, we have a shot at winning.
No, it's all about the organization and just how we cooperate and collaborate.
So I'd like to, as we close out, what I'd like to do is just take a minute to encourage anybody that's joined us to consider a career in ed tech. It has got to be one of the most rewarding technology fields to work in. It's very satisfying to walk into a classroom and see how the technology is impacting students and improving their lives in ways that are a little hard to even understand. It's also very exciting. It is, because we're always understaffed. You get to do a little bit of everything. You're exposed to a lot of things that in other governments or private industries where it's a little bit more specialized. You get to be a little bit more of a generalist and learn a lot of different areas of IT. So I think it's a great place to be. I love my job. Wouldn't do anything else. So I'm really encourage anybody who's in this field or taking classes in this area to consider it. It's not always the highest pay, but it makes up for it in other ways.
And you did bring up a good point about technology. It's not always the worst case scenarios that we're discussing in this meeting. A lot of this technology is really beneficial for others. As Joe mentioned, they look into med tech technology, and I can imagine it would be helping special education classes, amongst other aspects of education, that it's worth the risk sometimes to introduce this into the environment. It's just keeping this in the back of your mind, making sure that we're always aware that somebody out there is going to try and take advantage of it, that we have to stay vigilant in what we do. Make the best for the students, but also, do what we have to do in order to keep everybody safe at the same time.
Well, I've found myself compelled time and time again to what Emily said, is just protecting the students from not only from themselves, but from the outside threat actors. And philanthropically, that's what Microsoft is here to do with the Elevated organization. And what we try and do time and time again is just make it attainable technology and adoptable technology to help protect the teaching and learning side of the house. And we really, really do hold that wholeheartedly. And I will say, like myself, like I chose to rejoin Microsoft to become a part of the holistic effort to protect that side of the house. So cybersecurity wise, like we're all here, we're all in, we're in 100%, and we love and appreciate everybody is trying to do that to protect our citizens and our students, to be able to foster and allow them to be educated, right? That's really what they're here to do.
Awesome. Such a great conversation. I'll kind of open the floor to all of our speakers. If you have any final words of wisdom you want to leave with our audience before we close out, feel free.
It's been a joy talking, getting to know my fellow panelists, and Micah, Sean, appreciate the opportunity to hang out with y'all a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll just say same. Thanks. It was a great opportunity, great conversation, especially Calvin and Emily. Really great. I hope we stay connected. I think you'd both be great thought partners to work with in the future. And I do want to echo what Emily said as well about we are always looking for good people in our sector. And while the monetary compensation might not be as high as other sectors, you also never have to wake up wondering if you're making a difference. And to me, that's my favorite form of compensation. So, yeah.
You nailed that, Joe. You nailed that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am just grateful to be here with listen to Joe and Emily, because their students become my students. So we are in this together. And so to be honest with you, this is the same ecosystem. It just matures and it moves along and it graduates and go to the next level, right? So we're all in this together. So again, this has been a great opportunity working with all of you and being on a panel to discuss a very important topic that's near and dear to all of our hearts.
Awesome.
I just love the lights. Joe wasn't alive anymore.
Well, thank you all so much for your time. We truly appreciate it. And thank you to everyone who attended. Feel free to stay connected. And we're going to send a feedback survey in the chat. So if you have any thoughts on today's session, what you enjoyed, or future topics you'd like to see next time, take a second to fill that out. We hope to see you all at an event soon. And thank you once again to our incredible panel. We'll see you next time.
Thanks.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.